Last year, on August 25th of 2013, during our morning worship service, there was a moment where I felt like the Lord was speaking something about 12 years. Now, I didn't know what that meant, but I got up and shared that and said, okay, does that mean anything to anybody, 12 years? And Amanda immediately responded. She was the only one in the room that did, and she said, yes, I've had this thing for 12 years. And so we prayed for her that day, and it began something that started in that moment and has continued on to this day. So we want to tell you about that. Amanda, what was it? Tell us about how this started. What happened about 12 years before that moment?
I was 19. It was the spring of that year. I was working in a restaurant, and after my shift, I was cleaning up with the crew, and they thought I had an allergic reaction to something that I got exposed to at the restaurant. You know, things happen when you're working with a cleanup crew, things like that. My throat started swelling up, my eyes started swelling up, and so they said, you know, just take some Benadryl. And so I went, because I was across the bay at school and not by my own family. I went to one of my friend's moms to give me some Benadryl, and I thought, oh, I'll be fine. The next day, I woke up and I was worse. And so I called my mom, and she told me to come home, and I came home, and she took me to the doctor that day, and he said I had probably the worst case of mononucleosis that he had ever seen. And I also had an unknown virus in my blood. I haven't remembered a day of being well. It depleted my immune system and made my blood count go way down, which made me susceptible to other viruses and colds and infections and things like that. I started getting really blinding and debilitating migraines. I started growing cysts throughout my body, mainly in my female reproductive organs and in my stomach. I started passing out, and then I started having problems with my heart rate and my blood pressure. I started having digestive problems, kidney problems. I started having breathing problems. You name it, anything that had to do with the autonomic nervous system or your involuntary nervous system. Mine was beginning to fail throughout the years. I had fibromyalgia. I had severe chronic fatigue syndrome. I lost a little bit of my eyesight. You name it, and it started going wrong. Oh, I was definitely told, you won't be able to have children. You should not try for children. Your body is, and I quote, a hostile environment to produce any kind of children. We did, and we have 2 children now. We have 2 boys.
At her sickest, my days were very stressful, very worrisome. Just knowing, you know, I have to leave her at home with, you know, our youngest son, knowing that, you know, anytime she stands up, she could pass out and, you know, hit her head on the floor or on a table and, you know, possibly do more damage to herself or become unconscious or worse. There were times, you know, where she did push through to go out and, you know, try to do something fun, you know, with the boys, and, you know, if you're in a public place and she passes out or, you know, were to drop on the ground, you know, that freaks people out. You would not believe how freaked out people get when they see somebody pass out. And everybody wants to know if they can do something to help, and, you know, unfortunately, you know, it may sound sad to say, but it was routine for me and my boys, and, you know, we would just have to sit there and wait until the situation passed, until she regained consciousness. There was nothing you could do, you know, to help her, you know, regain conscious, or if she, you know, would stay conscious in kind of like a semi-paralyzed state. You just have to wait for her to pass it.
Okay, so we come to August 25th.
Yeah.
And there's a word of knowledge about 12 years,
Yeah.
which applied to you. And we had 3 of our ladies came and prayed for you. And there was a real sense of the manifest presence of God at that point.
Yeah.
At least in some of them. I don't know if you felt any of that, but what happened after that?
You know, when I I always expected that if God was going to heal my body, here, I always expected it to be this miraculous, bam, you're just healed, just like that. Because I've known people, I've had someone in my family have that miraculous slam dunk healing. So I always thought it would be like that for me. And when they came up to pray, I didn't really feel anything. So I continued to let them pray for me. I thought perhaps this is just the same as any other time that I've been prayed for. Little did I know what was actually happening within the next few minutes. So after they finished praying, I went back to my seat, and when I sat down, I started feeling things shifting, physically shifting in my body. My entire organ system had been ill throughout this time, and given with scoliosis and everything, not everything was in its place, and it was worn over 12 years of illness. I physically felt things moving, and to the point where I leaned over to my husband and I said, I feel organs moving in there, and there was a lot of heat. And I leaned over to my mom, because she was sitting on the other side of me, and she said, that's the hot anointing oil just running through you, just let it do it. And I could physically feel things just shifting, and for that to suddenly start happening, that's a little alarming, and at the same time exciting, because at that moment there was no doubt what was actually happening, that something was stirring, and it had to be healing, because I had just walked away from the altar. And then we stood up to say our declaration for the offering. And every time I have stood up for the past couple years, I have had this blackout or this gray out come over my vision. Sometimes I would pass out with it, sometimes I wouldn't, but without fail, I would have this gray out come over my eyes, like a curtain type thing. And I would have this contraction, like I would call it this full body contraction of my muscles, and I would have to hold on to something. That didn't happen when I stood up. There was no gray, there was no blur, there was no muscle contraction whatsoever, and I didn't even grab on to Kevin or the chair in front of me. And so I said the declaration really excitedly, and I wasn't out of breath when I said it. And so that's when I knew, okay, something's really, really happening inside me right now. So I said, the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go to lunch and I'm going to test it, because I was on a very odd diet, and food was a very big trigger for me because of the inflammation with my stomach. And there is a major artery that runs through your body that also triggers your blood pressure after you eat. And so I said, I'm going to go and I'm going to eat whatever I want, and I'm going to drink whatever I want. And to this day, people ask me what it was that I ate, but I don't remember. I was just too excited. But I did remember eating, and I do remember having a soda though, because sodas were a major off-limit thing for me. So and I didn't get sick. I didn't pass out. I didn't get nauseated. There was no vomiting, and that was something that I struggled with every single meal, no matter what. And I was free to eat that day and drink whatever I want. And for a lot of people that might not seem like a big deal, but when you struggle through every meal, that's a huge deal. It was exactly 6 weeks from that day till everything was just complete. I started noticing that standing up was easy. I started noticing that my blood pressure was normal. And then I got a lot of energy that I don't remember having for a very, very long time. And then strength started coming, and I noticed that my muscles were as they should be, and they weren't extremely weak. And I'll never forget the day that I could pick up my oldest son. They were 6 and 3 at this time, and I could pick him up. And I hadn't been able to pick up one of my children without sitting. I don't remember. I don't remember that. We got invited to a birthday party that was outside, and my oldest looks at me and he goes, "Do you want to run?" And I said, "I don't know." let's see. And we took off running across the park, and I was at full speed, full-fledged, arms, legs, just going. And it didn't cross my mind to worry about anything. It didn't cross my mind to check my symptoms, my vitals, anything like that. Nothing was wrong. Nothing happened to me, except I was really excited. He was really excited.
You know, we've been to the beach since her healing, you know, a few times, and she actually can get out in the waves and withstand, you know, waves hitting her and not have to worry about, you know, falling in the water and drowning or anything. So we can actually get back to enjoying life and, you know, doing normal things, I guess to say.
The only thing I know that happened, the only thing that I can tell you that this is exactly what happened, is I stood there and had a encounter with Jesus and with his healing power. That's it. There was no, you know, formula, there was no equation, there was no long list of do this, do that. There was no spiritual long list of do this, pray this, pray that, give this, you know, don't give that, you're sitting here, you're not sitting there. There was none of that. It was back in 2009. God asked me, who are you without being sick? And I couldn't answer him because I've been sick for so long. It consumed so much of my life, if not my entire life, that I was just a sick girl. And so it was then that I started labeling myself as healed, even when in the midst of being sick. I even went so far, might be far out there for some, but I even went so far as I changed my emails to say healed. Any like little social thing was healed. Any little thing where you could pick a name, I called myself healed because I believed it. I was ready for it, and so now that I am healed and I don't deal with any sickness in my life. I mean, I might get a cold just like everyone else, but even those have been way easier for me. I'm free, and the freedom is almost indescribable. God doesn't even call me Amanda anymore. That He does call me His healed one. That's what I own now. That's what the identity for myself lies in now. Or I can imagine the Father looking at me, and He's like, "You're free."